Okay, we're recording.
All right, so we'll call this meeting to order on December 22nd at 9 a.m. This is the Sign Advisory Committee for the HDC. Before we get started, let me read the script. As preliminary matter, this is Chris Young, Chair. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kevin Kuster.
Aye.
Ben Norman.
Here.
Mark Gattone.
Here.
And Paul is not on, correct? Okay. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kathy Flynn.
Present.
Okay. Anticipated speakers, please respond in the affirmative. And I see Hillary Rayport.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I can hear you. I'm here for the Historical Commission. We just wanted to know if we needed to apply for a monument we're producing.
Okay. Hold on. Right now, we're just confirming who's on the line. So we'll get back to you on that. And then I see Bruce Chabner.
Right. Here.
Okay. Thank you. So good morning. This meeting of the SAC is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's orders suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. This order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows the public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the SAC is convening by video conference via the Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that the meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of the body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. All right, thank you all for listening to that. So, do we have an adoption of our agenda? Would somebody like to make a motion for that?
So move.
All right, Mark, thank you. Kevin, is that a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, Ben?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
And the chair is aye, so we have adopted our agenda. Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve our minutes or any comments on the minutes from the 12/8 meeting?
So move.
Thank you, Kevin.
Second.
Thanks, Mark. Ben, are you in favor?
In favor.
Mark?
Yeah, aye. Yes.
And Kevin?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that carries unanimously. Public comment. I think we'll wait for the preliminary reviews will fall under section 5. So Hillary, I'll ask you to wait for that. Is anybody here for a public comment just on signage in general? No. Election of officers is the next item on the agenda.
Yes.
Do we have a proposed slate?
So, Chris, you're usually the chair. I didn't know if they wanted to just renew
I
the
can,
current status. So, unless someone
I
else
move
wanted-
to keep Chris the chair.
Please.
okay,
All in favor?
Aye.
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 okay,
It's unanimous.
all right. We'll move on to the
Unanimous.
next
That was
item on
easy.
the agenda. All right, thanks.
Okay.
So we'll move on.
Congratulations.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the first item on the agenda, which is 49 Main Street. And
Mr. Chair, I don't believe that Mark is here, but I did talk to Holly yesterday because the the sconce advisory board was not on the town website yet. They had the same exact concerns that you all had about the sign, that it should be over to the right and it should go where the yellow sign is. So just,
okay,
and they thought it should have the same armature as this sign.
okay. So is there any comment from the members of the board? Kevin?
No, let me make sure I'm on here. No, my comments are still the same. There is another version of that armature that's at the top of Main Street that points out to Nantucket. So I think it makes sense that it's the same and it's the same size as that sign that's on the screen right now. So I guess I'd be willing to make a motion that we approve it based on the comments, or we can wait until Mark wants to come back, whatever.
Okay. I think that, it's on the agenda. If we want to make a motion, we can certainly do so. Let me just go down the other board members. So we have a motion. I guess we'll pass over to Mark. Do you have any comments on the motion, or would you like to say?
More of a question. Kathy, are you able to pan back to the photos of it on site?
Right there?
Yeah. I guess my only comment is that, and this was discussed the last time, we're not going to have three signs on the right-hand side. I definitely am in favor on the right versus the left. There is going to be a little cluttersome. Unfortunately, it really takes away from what might be an attractive village sign. And I don't know what jurisdiction, if any, we have. And I know it was kind of jokingly discussed with Mark last time, but if there's an opportunity to lighten the sign load on that right side, that would be nice. Otherwise, I guess I'm in favor of the application as modified to be located on the right-hand side, consistent, the armature consistent with the photo provided. I think those are my comments.
Kevin, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, I would agree. I think those signs should either be removed, or certainly the day glow one needs to change. But another option on that might be to just move the village sign, proud of those other two, because it's going to have an arrow on it anyway. You can maybe move it, you know what I'm trying to say, move it ahead of that intersection.
Yeah, I think it would
It's
help.
not going to remove all the clutter, but it would remove them from ganging up on each other.
Right. Ben?
Mr. Chair,
Oh, yes. Okay.
point of clarification, I don't know if this is a required sign by the state or not now, so I'll look into that. I'll ask Mark about that.
Okay. Ben, did you have any comments?
No, I think Wisconsin Advisory Board had it right. And our initial comments of getting it on the right is the best location for it. So
All right, so we have a motion by Kevin. Do we have a second?
I second that.
All right, thanks, Ben. Mark, are you in favor?
Yes.
And Kevin
Aye.
and Ben?
Aye.
Okay, I am as well, so that carries. Thanks, Kathy. If you want to just let Mark know about that.
I will. Just-
All right. What is the next item up on the agenda? If you can pull that up for us.
Russell's Way, so,
Okay.
and
Is nobody's online for this, correct?
yes.
On the call.
This Dr. Chapter.
Oh, Brooke is. Okay. So why don't we give the floor to Brooks? Explain what you're.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Did you want me to explain the sign?
Yeah, just introduce us to this application.
Sure, okay. So, yes, we maintain a road that's actually owned by the Nantucket Conservation Foundation. And it's a road that runs between the Milestone Road and Russell and Wigwam, which is a circle of houses that were built in the midst of that conservation area. It's about a mile long. We have the responsibility of maintaining the road according to an agreement that was made with the town. I think it's about 40 years old now. And with the Nantucket Conservation Foundation. The road is a dirt road. We put actually at times speed bumps on it to discourage speeding. It is a somewhat dangerous road because of the fact that in bad weather, it develops potholes like all roads of its kind in Nantucket. And also it narrows at various places, but basically it's a reasonable road. We grade it between like 6 and 10 times a year, depending on the weather and the condition of the road. We try to maintain it in a safe way. It's our responsibility to be sure that traffic can get to the beach. That was one of the stipulations with the town agreement. I think recently we put up this sign to notify people coming up and down the road. There's quite a bit of traffic in the summer going to the beach at Matacasham. And so we try to discourage people from speeding. There are people walking on this road. There are people running and a lot of biking, actually, kids biking. So this sign is meant basically to slow down traffic and to advise people that it's a private road as well and try to reduce the damage done. At times, some of the speeders actually dig ruts in the place, particularly young kids that are riding motorcycles or cars. So this sign was put up, I think maybe a year ago. I'm not exactly sure. Somebody came along and took a picture of it and sent it to you folks and said, is this appropriate? And it's not the kind of thing where we're trying to sell lemonade or something. We're actually trying to discourage rapid transit on this road. And we were not aware of the fact that we had to get permission for a private road for a sign like this. So that's basically the situation.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up to the floor. Mark, do you have any comments?
I might have missed this. How many signs are there along the road like this?
I can't tell you. I think that this is the only sign that has a 15-mile-an-hour thing on it. I don't know. There are. I think there is a sign at the beginning of the road saying this is Russell's Way, and that sign's been there for like 40 years. It's been repaired at times.
Point of clarification, I believe that's the only sign on this road that says private way. The other one is the town issued Russell's Way.
I've certainly seen a lot of signs like this in similar applications within neighborhoods ranging from out in Tom Nevers to, I think, within Shop and other newer developments that state the speed limit. I guess my comment might be, if this is coming before us as a new application, the other examples, typically they're either done in sort of the town color palette of gray and linen or something of that nature, or maybe a black and white. This sort of mustardy yellow is not something that we would typically encourage. So I think if they are to have them, we might encourage them to be more consistent with some of the other traffic signage we've seen in similar applications.
Okay. Ben?
Yeah, I guess one question I had is the sign on conservation, the Conservation Foundation land? Whose land is it on?
It's all conservation land. The road is
So-
owned by the Conservation Foundation.
Mr. Chair,
We have a sort of easement for it to maintain the road, but that's it. We don't own the road.
Okay, Bruce, I
this-
think, Kathy, go ahead. Yeah, you've got a letter.
sorry. So yeah, so this stems from a citizen complaint. So I emailed the land council, sorry, Nantucket Conservation, and Cormac Collier said that they have rights to it. They do own it. Nantucket Conservation Foundation owns it, but the Wigwam Homeowners Association has rights to it. So he suggested I reach out to Dr. Chapter. So that's why this is before you. I don't have the application as of yet, because I was waiting for the meeting.
Well, we didn't know who to sign the application. 'Cause
Oh, no,
you
that's
said that-
fine. Yeah,
That
that's,
the
yeah,
owners
yeah,
should sign it. Well, we don't own it. So
right.
I
that
think
was
that's
the reason.
and that's sort of why I'm asking the question. I mean, I think if the sign is on Conservation Foundation land, the Conservation Foundation should approve it internally and then apply for it. So I feel like we're putting the, Dr. Bruce Chapter,
Yeah.
I appreciate you doing this. I know this is out of your wheelhouse a little bit, but I feel like we're the Nantucket Conservation Foundation has responsibility for this sign because it's on their land. And if the Wigwam Homeowners Association wants to put that sign there, they probably should get approval through the Conservation Foundation.
Well, actually, they said that they sort of washed their hands of it when it came up, because they said we've ceded the rights to maintain the road to Wigwam. So, they don't contribute anything to this except they have given the land. And, there's a 50-foot wide swath of road that runs this mile, and that's our responsibility to maintain. There have been a couple of issues about that, in the sense that at times they've cut trees down on that 50-foot wide area, and they've also littered the road at times with debris. And so it's, it isn't clear at times whether they respect our right to maintain it totally. But we don't own it. We just do it through an agreement with the town and this long-standing agreement with the town and the Nantucket Conservation Foundation. So
Okay.
Well,
Let me-
can I make a comment on the sign itself? Just,
Yeah.
I love our rural roads out here. I love our scenery and dirt roads and enjoying kind of driving through natural settings like this. And I find this sign to be way too suburban for this location. So I don't know what the change is, but that's my feeling about the sign.
Okay. Thanks, Ben. Kevin?
I agree with what's been said as far as what the sign looks like. I don't think it's our jurisdiction to approve signs on somebody else's property, no matter what the circumstances are. That they're still the owner, whoever that owner might be in any circumstance. And Uh, I think it falls in the category of freestanding signs. It also falls in the category of kind of town-like signs. And if there is going to be something here, it should have approval from the landowner, and it should look like a regular town type sign, like Mark was explaining earlier. That's all.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. And I agree with those comments. I think we should have the Conservation Foundation should be the applicant. So as far as who signs it, maybe Cormac or one of their representatives should sign the application, but it also would be, I don't think this is an approvable sign in the rural setting. So I agree. It should be in keeping with street signage that is used by the town.
So I don't quite understand the logic here. You said it's a private sign.
Well, it's on a public way, so it's private property, meaning that the applicant would have to be the owner of the property. So you're saying you weren't sure who should sign the application. It should be the Conservation Foundation that signs the application. But we have jurisdiction over signage on private property. That's the majority. That's mostly what we are here to review.
Okay, so what would you like the sign to say?
I think it's more the color and the material. It should be more in keeping with the rural setting, meaning that it would be Nantucket. The sign book outlines that information signs like this should be the gray posts and the gray background and linen writing.
Okay, so we should
other signs that you see around town.
If they approve it, then we should repaint the posts so it's gray. And what about the sign itself? What should the sign look like?
I'm speaking on, if the board will allow me to speak, I believe that the best guidelines that the book provides are the gray background sign with the linen lettering, much like you see the no parking signs and.
Okay. So linen lettering would be what, white?
Yes, sort of an off-white.
So a gray background with white lettering. And is the size of the sign okay?
I think it looks appropriate. I'll go down the board. Ben, any comments on that or anything that I've said?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not really into signs on rural roads like this, so.
Okay.
If it's grayed and trying to blend in a little bit with the natural landscape, I'll be in favor of it. The size, sure. I don't know.
Would you rather have it green? I mean, we could put green lettering on it.
I mean, if I may, I don't think we're here to design this for you. You kind of need to do your homework on it. I'm sorry.
I'm a doctor, not a sign maker. I just need guidance.
Yeah, I think if you speak to Cormac, honestly, those guys are pretty familiar as well. The Conservation Foundation, they definitely are regular. Signs? They have signs, but let me continue down the line just since we're sort of in a string of conversation. Mark, do you have any conversation points?
Yeah, I think the palette changes is something we've already discussed. I think the post looks like it's a 6x6, probably. If the post was replaced to a 4x4, maybe natural to weather with a simple gray sign. It could be two-tone. I think we've got gray with dark gray letters, so it's a little easier to read. Something along that. So it's a more muted palette, certainly not the bright
Actually,
yellow.
maybe what I can do is get from Kathy the instruction book or the instructions for a sign like this. Is that okay?
Certainly.
You actually have it written out someplace?
The sign book does offer guidelines for street signage. It does. So that'd be a wise move. And just continuing the conversation, Kevin, do you have any?
Nothing to add.
Okay. So this is not a formal application, Kathy?
Well, I was waiting for the application, but I was actually wanted to hear your thoughts on who the applicant should be, because Cormac said that it was under the homeowner's jurisdiction. So I've never come across this before.
Yeah.
It's kind of an odd But again, it
Let's-
was a citizen's complaint and I had to act on it, so.
Sure.
no, I don't.
I think we're all suggesting it should be Cormac should be the one filing the application, but it can be on
Agreed.
behalf, represented by the HOA.
Okay.
Okay.
Just so that ownership. And so we won't take any action because there's no actual, we don't need to motion
Yeah, right.
anything, but hopefully we've given you some direction.
So, yeah, one final thing is when we come back with an application, should Cormac be the one that presents it, or should I?
I think anybody could represent it. You're welcome to come back and join. It doesn't have to be the person who signed the application.
Okay.
So whoever
Right.
feels they're best prepared to,
Well,
to speak.
it shouldn't take a lot of preparation. Okay.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
All right,
Doctor.
thank you very much. Kathy, would you introduce us to the next sign application here?
Yes, so we have a block of things from Ben.
Okay. So Ben, you'll recuse yourself from the board.
Yep, I recuse myself.
Okay.
The one we have coming up next is a wall sign. That's Fair Street.
So this looks like the original submittal,
Oh, sorry, next page.
which is good because I like to, and
Yeah.
Kathy, I appreciate you having the original submittal because we did, we haven't looked at this now for about 6 months. The NHA, they had quite a summer of manipulation of their system of what they do. So the signs kind of got put on the back burner, but we're back to redo all the signs for the NHA historic properties. And Kathy, if you don't mind scrolling up to look at what we initially proposed, and this will be consistent through all the signs. Yeah, there it is. So there was the original submittal, not well balanced. The NHA logo was much too big. The location of the name of the location and the NHA symbol were poorly laid out. So now if we look at what's now being proposed, Kathy, if you don't mind scrolling down, everything's much more well balanced. The location is more prominent. The NHA symbols is much more subdued on the bottom. And we also, at that first meeting 6 months ago, I'm digging deep in my memory here, but you had asked for the size of the existing signs. So that you can see there in yellow, it says the current sign is 14 by 7. The proposed one is 16 by 9.5. So slightly larger, but not anywhere near huge. Yeah, there it is again. There's the sign. So.
Okay. Kevin, would you like to start the conversation?
Yeah, let me start with a few kind of overall comments that I think relate to all the signs. I think that there was some good progress made with the layout of these. However, I feel like it needs another round of that. I'm not convinced that these signs, pretty much all of them, I'm not convinced why they need to be larger than what they are, and I'm not convinced why some of them need to be different sizes than others. I feel sometimes like the hierarchy of what the sign's trying to communicate is still a little off balance. For instance, Quaker Meeting House, if the sign were leaner and longer, you could be on one line and things like that. I also feel like the scalloped corners are just really, really heavy-handed, and I think if you looked at that on actual size, it might feel like somebody just took a big bite out of the corner. I think I think it's just a little, too accentuated, and perhaps it's just the way that it's drawn at a small scale makes it look so big, but it's quite a large scallop. So I know those aren't things that would qualify or disqualify this, but I think given where these are and the prominence of them, they need a little more design refining, I think. So those are my comments generally. And it would apply to this one as well. I think I don't see the need for going bigger or larger type when the viewing distance of this is really within a few feet most of the time. That's all.
Okay. Mark?
Maybe opening with a question. Are the signs for the other properties, they all vary in size? And I guess I'm trying to get a sense of what the consistency is like.
Yeah, slightly. I mean, there's none that are drastically larger or drastically smaller. Some of them are scaled a little bit more to their specific location, and we'll go as we go through them. We will. I think one thing about all these signs is, the existing signs. Some of them are in okay shape, some of them are in really bad shape, and the NHA really wants to create a consistency for visitors so that when they walk up to a house and they see that sign, it matches the previous historic property they were at before. I think it's really important now more than ever that we provide, clear identification to our historic properties so that people can find them and enjoy them. And, if the signs that are there now are falling apart and need to be replaced, it just seems like now is a great time to create that consistency and make it as easy as possible in a most discreet way for our visitors to kind of identify and enjoy these locations. So.
Kathy, can I see the previous sign or original? I guess I kind of and maybe I can go back to the proposed again, please. I guess I'm generally okay with it. I guess similar to Kevin's comments, I'm not sure why it's getting much larger. It's not much larger, it's inches. And I also find, oddly as well, the scalloping almost makes it busier than it needs to be. I almost think it would be more successful as a simple, I think of the scallops that are more appropriate on a quarter board maybe, whereas here I find it just a little, it's a detail I think that just isn't necessary. It makes it a little fussy. If it were just a clean rectangle and maybe just the black outline, it seems like it'd be actually maybe a little more successful. I can appreciate the consistency. I mean, this is something I think the NHA has been talking about for years in trying to, we've seen a lot come our way on this. And that these are generally, am I correct, Ben, that these are basically going to replace existing signs, or in some cases, we're going to have new signs in locations they don't exist now?
They're almost all replacing existing signs.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we'll look at it as we go, but. Yeah.
Maybe my only comment is whether indeed the size could be more consistent with what's on the building now, certainly no larger. And maybe it's a simple rectangle would actually help. So those are my comments.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't thought about the scallops, but as you say it does make it seem a little bit more historic or simple, which is probably the goal. And Ben, the color scheme is white background with black lettering. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep.
Okay. So Mark or Kevin, do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I just add one other thing I forgot to mention. I think you could also really help emphasize a little bit of hierarchy if you took their logo and printed that back in a gray rather than black. You'd get a little first read a little easier. But that's just a suggestion. Do you want comments for each of these applications, or do you want motions for each of these, or? 'Cause my motion would be, because my motion would be to hold for revisions, which is going to be probably for a lot of these.
Well, we could do a blanket if that's the motion we're going to make. That certainly could be done as one motion.
I mean, there are some of these. Look, there are some of these in all of these submissions. There are a few that have the signs moving from the building to a fence or so forth. Some of those I think are fine, and others I've got a couple concerns on. But I guess to speed this up, I just make a motion to hold for revisions, and those revisions to be consistent with the other signs.
Okay, so do you want to address any of your concerns with the fence signs, though, so that we've given some direction?
Yeah, I think we should go through every application just so at least we can, I mean, I understand the sign, but location I think is important too, so.
Yeah, so while we're on that subject, I think, Kevin, I also feel like the logo is very visually tight to the, in this case anyway. I do still feel like the name of the location and the logo are crowding each other. So either reducing the size somewhat of the logo and the Historic Association title, or perhaps going to gray would certainly help. I just kind of feel like the H of house and the logo seem crowded somewhat. So then that would be a comment I'd make design wise.
Yep.
But Kathy, do you want to show us, maybe we could do this as a blanket hold for revisions. Let's just go application by application and see the other locations.
So this one's actually a little different, so I'm glad we're going through this. These are applied letters to the frieze of the research library.
Okay.
And that's pretty consistent with
This
Whaling
is the
Museum.
old one.
Okay.
And then this
You
is
want me to?
Go ahead, Kevin.
This one I know we talked a little bit about last time. I'm very much opposed to this version of this for a couple of reasons. Number one, we just got done talking about consistency, and this totally flies in the face of that. And I really think that by putting this sign underneath the older historic sign that's in that top architectural piece, I think does exactly what our sign guidelines ask people not to do, and that's to start to dominate the architecture of the building with another sign. I think this is adequately addressed by the sign at the front gate or a sign on the door. I think there's also another freestanding perpendicular sign that is to the right of this little one, if I remember right. So at this one, I've got issues with the type of sign being proposed, and certainly the location.
Okay, Mark.
Just really, we're looking at two signs really here, right? The one on the fence and then one proposed for the frieze.
No, the one on the fence would go away once if we were allowed the lettering of the frieze.
I see. Yeah, I think I'm struggling with the fact there'll be literally two signs on that edifice, which isn't terribly large. And the amount of signage above the original signage is actually fairly extensive. I feel like research library could be addressed in some other fashion, whether it's a small sign at the street, small sign to the right of the door once you arrive to make sure you arrived at the right door versus the other door we just looked at. So, and I don't think I can get behind this sign on the frieze. If we did, I think I'd also be looking for it to be in all caps, like the example provided. But I think, sorry, I'm just kind of thinking through it. I think a more discrete sign, and I agree, I don't think we're seeing the full picture because I believe there is a freestanding armature with maybe where they change out information in it. And I don't know, we don't have that here. Is that, am I correct in that, Ben?
You know, I can't remember, to be honest with you. Is there like a menu box like thing?
I think there is to
Is there?
the,
I can't
I think
remember.
Kevin's correct, maybe to the right of the path or something. It's in the front
Okay, I'll
lawn,
get
and
it.
I'm curious, like, what does that say and what's that doing? You know?
I'll make
So
sure
I
that-
would kind of hold this for maybe for more revision, maybe more information, so we have the complete picture too. And I think my comments on the signage previously would apply to this one. And then I think also for consistency, now the logo is above the name. And I think if you're trying to create consistency in branding, then the signs should be more graphically consistent as well. So,
you mind, Chris, do you mind if I just mention one thing while I'm thinking of it? You know, I'm looking at that existing fence sign for the research library. And although the research library and the NHA logos are flipped in this particular moment, you know, that's the existing sign. So we can see that scalloped edge there. And you know, aside from the flipping of the research library and the NHA logoing, you know, that would be sort of consistent with what we're trying to do for all the signs, although a little bigger than those. But anyway, it's just something to keep in mind as we're going through those, that, you know, maybe that's the clipped corner that we should be shooting for in that scale.
Okay, and this current sign is 20 by 11.5, and if I recall, the other was 9 by 16, I think is what the, so
That's right.
from a sense of scale, these are not, you know, that other sign got bigger. It's still smaller than this one, in fact.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, well, I think you've got some good comments. I tend to agree with Kevin and Mark about the frieze. I think it's, you know, this is certainly a protected building that we should be really careful with. And if there's other signage that'll accomplish the goals, I think that's what we should stick with. So, but this will be part of a blanket hold for revision, so you can have a chance to review.
Yep. So that was the previously submitted sign.
Yeah, so that when the X is there, I just save it, so.
Yep.
To identify it.
And this, there it is now. Yeah. So there's what we're proposing on the gate. There's the existing 14 by 7. We're proposing 14 and a half by 8. So barely bigger.
Okay.
You know, this screen kind of shows my point. The existing sign gets all the copy in, you know, one line. It's got a better hierarchy to it. It's a lot simpler. I don't see the need to go bigger. I don't see the need for the fussy corners or the way that the type just, it's like the name of the location and the logo are just both screaming for attention at the same time, and I don't see this as an improvement.
Okay. Mark?
I might agree with Kevin. I actually like the existing sign over the proposed. And I guess this kind of helps my argument or suggestion earlier, just going to very simple rectangular format versus the scalloped edges. I think these are, I think these are more successful. I think the name of the property is more successfully identified with the secondary information being more appropriately scaled here as well. So I would hold for a revision or keep existing in this case.
Okay. Yeah, I've Ben, unfortunately, I agree. I think that I actually like the separation of the logo and the title of the Historic Association. I think that it helps the hierarchy and it helps break up the weight of that logo that we're seeing in the other signs. I hadn't thought about that as being an option for the other signage, but it has a sort of nice layout to it as it is, but with the circle above the title and then the Historic Association below. I don't know what the rest of the board feels about that, but I think that's a.
Do you mind if I make a quick
Yes.
comment about that? You know, I like the existing sign too. The thing I actually don't like about the existing sign is that centered logo above the name. I wish that was on the bottom left, and then the name moved up on the existing sign, so that you read the name of the location first. There's not that funny centered circle logo above you, and then that logo is down the bottom left, and then it says Nantucket Historical Association. Does anybody
Fair
have
enough.
that? And I want to kind of talk about that, because if that's the new format, you know, having the sign person redraw all these, I want to make sure that's the right approach.
Right.
How does anybody feel about that?
Mark, how do you feel about that?
You know, the current sign is all center justified. I mean, I think you got to play with it a little bit. Again, I sort of like what's there. When you drop the logo down below, I think it starts to play with the white space between the name of the property and the Nantucket Historical Association verbiage. Yeah, I'm gonna just stick to my comments as previous.
Okay, you like the existing.
I think so.
Kevin?
Yeah, I feel that this whole project would be much more successful if they just rehabilitated the existing signs. And frankly, I think in most of the cases, the existing signs are, you know, also located in a good spot. I think that the signs that are there now at one point in time were fairly well thought out, and I just don't think it's worth making the change for these for these types of signs. Anyway, that's all.
Okay. All right, let's keep moving down the other sign applications so Ben can get a full review. Okay, that's the old application.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that sign's pretty similar to the previous one. Yeah.
got it. Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, you can see the same thing kind of happens here when you have two lines of type for the fire hose, cart, and then house, and then the date. When you got, you know, centered type over this logo, which has some justified type in it, it just throws it off balance. And again, I think the existing sign and size and things work just fine in this location.
And Mark?
Yeah, I would agree. It doesn't look broken to me.
Okay.
It seems like a lot of effort and expense, and I don't know that I'm convinced it's actually improving or accomplishing much more than what it's doing today.
Right. I guess one thing, just administratively, I would say that if the applicant is, really our job is to judge whether the new sign application is appropriate.
Yeah.
So I think we should be careful about, you know, applicants can make mistakes, not saying that it's a mistake, but, you know, it's your right to apply, the NHA's right to apply for what they want. So let's just keep that in mind, whether we can encourage, but from is it approvable point of view, let's also just consider that, you know what I mean? But it's I tend to agree with your comments, guys. I'm not disagreeing. I like the existing sign. But if they come back, just for, so Ben is armed with the information, if they come back and say, no, this is what we want, do we have comments based on how approvable these signs are? Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. Unfortunately, they already have a sign, so it's like hard for us not to look at that
Right.
because
Right.
it's there. And so I guess what you're kind of saying, and I sort of agree that if this was coming in cold, we might, I don't know that we would even accept this proposal unchanged. I think it's close. I mean, it's not bad. I just think it could be better. And unfortunately, what I think is better is probably what they already have. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kevin.
Yeah, there's been a number of times where we've asked people to keep the signs on their buildings exactly the same. Pacific National Bank is one, the club car is one, the drugstore is one. These are very much iconic buildings. I think the signs that are there are very well designed, and they're more like labels than they are, signs that are in your face. And so while I understand that what our jurisdiction is, I think that these properties are so sensitive to all of us that it deserves our best shot at it anyway. And I think Ben is trying to do that too.
Yeah, and I'm going to dive back in. I mean, I have to say, I opened the discussion with an appreciation for creating some branding and consistency. And now I've seen two basically of the exact same size. It's like, I feel like they're already there. Like at some point they took the steps to create that consistency and branding. And I feel like the existing signs are more sensitive to the historic structures than the proposed. And they're already consistent from property to property. And if I walk up and I've been to one of the other properties, I'm going to clearly recognize this is another one of their properties because it's graphically consistent. I think if they wanted to adopt this existing format for other properties that don't have a sign right now, or want to make it consistent to this and the field we just looked at, that seems to be a more logical approach, in my opinion, I guess. Thank you.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
Yeah, let's go to the next sign.
Yep, so this is a little bit different. Currently, there's a very large sign directly on the building as shown in yellow there. That would be removed, and we would replace it with a fence sign off the historic structure. And I think that's it's a very large sign that's existing. It's 22 by 12. And we're proposing if you could scroll up just a hair, it's 20 by 11. Yeah, 20 by 11. So, we are reducing the size, getting it off the historic structure. So I think all those are positives in this case. This is a funny location. I mean, Greater Light is a fantastic building, but it's darn hard to find if you don't know where it is. This sign is helpful, but we talked about other ways to try to show people up Howard Street that this is actually there, and there's no good way. The improvement here is getting the sign off the structure and getting it more on that street level, and of course reducing the sign slightly in size.
Can we zoom in on the original sign? I'm just curious to see what that looked like a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, if you go,
there's a photo below,
yeah,
right?
Scroll down.
If you scroll down, Kathy. Yeah. And are we able to zoom in on that? Chair, I don't know if you want me to open with comments since I'm
Sure, yes. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
looking at it anyway. I appreciate removing the sign off the structure and relocating it to the fence. I think that is certainly a sensitive move, and I can support that. And then I think I'd be consistent with previous comments that, again, the signage should be consistent with the comments we've made previously on the other signs. I wanted to see this original sign because it seems like it's somewhat uniquely designed for this building. Does the new sign state the year on it? Maybe we can go back to the proposed sign again. So it just goes back to the original 1790. Okay. What's it? Okay. So the other one said 1930. This one says 1790. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
You know why, Ben?
Well, I think the original building was built as a barn in 1790, but then the sisters, I forget their names now, I think
Yeah.
their era was the 30s, so they turned it into the Greater Light. And
Maybe not for our discussion, but it seems like the content's off, oddly enough, not to tell the NHA, but it seems like when I think of this building, I do think of the 1930s when the sisters modified it to what we see today.
Right.
See 1790, it seems very misleading. Certainly none of the barn element is at least clear from the exterior. But that aside, I guess. So I'll just, yeah, I like the idea of relocating it to the fence. And again, that sign should be maybe consistent with other signs proposed.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
I agree with what Mark said. I don't think this sign needs, now that, I don't think the sign needs to be, larger than the others. I think, and I guess that falls under the overall comments. Because you're walking right up to this, and it could be the same size and the same format as the others, I think. That's all.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, I agree. Off the building is a big improvement. And it should be consistent with the other sign sizes. And just curiously, is that the gate that it's off to the left, is that gate to the right or that opening to the right? I'm not familiar with the difference between the two. Is one more prominently the entrance than the other? It just reads like the other one's the prominent entrance, or is that off the street?
The one on the right goes to those really nice French doors there, but I don't believe that's an access for the public. I believe the one on the left goes to that eve end door there below that dormer, and that's where people.
Gotcha. Okay. Just curious. All right. Let's jump to the next. Okay.
Yep. So here again, we want to take the name off the building and relocate the sign to that front fence column.
There.
Yep. And on the opposite side is that menu box type thing for hours of operation and any special events and stuff.
Okay. Kevin?
I think we had something in here once before where they were trying to put a sign on either of these columns, but I guess my comments are the same. I would, if we end up with a simpler sign, I'd be okay with putting it on this other post, I guess you call it. But I somewhat question if we really need two signs there. But I do like getting it off the building. Maybe it's, well, let's just see how the others come out. If they come out a little bit, this is another case like putting a sign 14:8 right in front of your nose just is too large to me. And you can tell the building without having it to, be that big. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. And Mark?
I appreciate the sign being removed from the building itself. I think that's an improvement. I again, I guess I'd like to see the sign change to be consistent with our comments previously. I was thinking whether it made sense to try and merge that sign into that menu box in some way. Do they need to affix signage to both the left and the right hand side? I think I recall previous discussions that they find the menu boxes useful because people don't know the operating hours of this particular building, because it's not something you'd walk up to or see, hours posted or anything of that nature. And I guess if they're really trying to create consistency between properties, separating the two signs, a sign and a menu box, maybe do make sense. So I think I'd love to see one sign, but I guess I can't see how we would merge the proposed, whatever that proposed sign ends up becoming, into that menu box really, and then having the consistency between properties. And I agree probably with Kevin on size. I certainly don't see it any larger, and it could potentially be maybe even more discreet. Again, you're going to be right on top of that when you read it. So certainly no larger, it could be a little smaller. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And I think we've seen a couple applications for this location before. I remember one of them was to try to make another kiosk or menu box. And that was too much in my opinion, but I like getting the sign off the building and onto the post. I think it helps. And I think it would be better to have it be a subtle sign as opposed to like a second matching sign of some kind. I think that at one point there was a discussion of even doing like the Preservation Institute has, those little framed signs to try to match the menu box. But I think keeping it simple is important. So I'm in favor of moving the location off the building.
So why don't we, maybe
So.
So same situation here. We have a sign hiding there on the right. You can see that yellow circle. It's behind that tree there. We want to bring the sign and put it on the fence. Again, getting it off the historic structure, getting it a little bit more prominent by the door.
Okay. Any comments, Kevin?
Yeah, I think we've had an application come in before wanting a sign on the fence. I don't think this fence is an appropriate place for the sign. The fence is, somewhat delicate with the round balustrades, and it's just going to get ripped off real quickly. I know that where it is now, it's very hard to find on that right-hand side of the building, but perhaps getting something closer to the door, or even mounted on a more shallow post, back within the fence. Somehow, I think sticking it on this fence just feels like a Band-Aid, and not very well integrated into the site. So I think this one needs some work on location, as well as the other comments that we talked about.
Mark?
I think I agree with everything Kevin just said. I can't see it. Unfortunately, this particular fence design lending itself well to a fence sign. I think it's fighting the sort of elegant design of that existing fence. And oddly, I'd almost like to see if we had to have a sign here somewhere. I agree that the corner sign, it was probably well photographed with the tree in front of it, to strengthen an argument, but like a small post with a small sign in the garden behind the fence feels a little better than marring what I see in this case, the architecture of the fence. So I don't know that I just suggested a freestanding sign. Maybe I did, but
It-
I'm not convinced that at least the fence application is the right approach here. Maybe it is. Maybe this sign is just simply located closer to the door, the right-hand side of the door somewhere. I like it coming off the building. I just don't know if the fence is a place to put it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. It's funny. I was thinking about the freestanding sign as well. And then hearing both of you say it makes me feel like that's might be the right suggestion. I thought I was going to be the lone soldier there. But Ben, just take those thoughts into
Yeah,
consideration.
they wanted a freestanding sign. I said, don't even try it. But
All right,
I will try it. So
Now you got something to
Thank
go
you.
back.
we'll make it tidy and
Okay.
we'll show you what we'll do. Yep. So again, we would be removing the sign from the building and bringing it out to the street onto that split rail fence.
Okay. Kevin?
I don't have any other comments to add than what we've already talked
Okay.
about.
Mark?
Might say the same. Am I wrong? Is there a large informational sign that's on the property now out by the road?
Yeah,
I swear I've
think there
seen people stop and read that when I've been up there before.
I-
Does that already
I don't think-
identify the property?
Is if there's a rock,
Yeah,
is there a rock somewhere?
yeah, there's something.
I'll see. I
thought
can't-
it- I
I
thought
feel
it was
like
a-
there isn't like a freestanding sign, but there might be a rock, and I'll see if I can find it.
Okay.
Get a picture for you.
Otherwise, I don't think at this time I have any additional comments than what's been said previously. I do appreciate it coming, the sign being removed from the building itself. I think a sign has been in that location for a long time, but it's probably serves a better purpose being out by the road when you arrive to the property.
Okay, agreed. Kathy, let's look at the next one. Okay.
So currently no sign at all on this building or on this property, and we just put a small fence sign on the split rail.
Okay. Any comments? Kevin?
No, the comments are the same. I mean, I think you can see here how the white space on this current layout is just overwhelming the message.
Right. Mark?
This is hard. It's like when you're trying to create branding. Some of these signs work really well on some properties, and I don't think they work very well on others. And you almost want to see them marry up to the architecture a little bit here, like this white sign on a natural fence. Structure's obviously muted and dark. So I guess, same comments as previous.
Yeah. My comment is that the white space is distracting here. And I think that horizontal, like the old signage that we've seen on some of the other buildings, would tighten up this design a little bit nicer. Agree with you, Mark, on the white. Not sure if how we handle that if we're looking for branding here, but
Right. Yeah.
certainly cleaning up making a more horizontal sign would help in this case, with that white space being pretty prominent as it is.
So in this case, we would just continue to keep a sign on the building. There's just, aside from a freestanding post, there's nowhere good to put a sign here. So we'd just be replacing it.
Okay.
Is this on Vestal technically?
Yep, technically.
Okay.
Mark, you got any comments?
Ben, there's no signage out by the street on this at all?
Yeah, there is. There's a freestanding sign out front that, I don't know, is it included up above there, down below somewhere?
I believe
So-
it's like the street sign, right? Looks just like.
Yeah, there's like there's a freestanding like street sign, that's not changing. But
I guess like for me, because I think you can't, from my recollection, when you start to make your way down the path, it's pretty consistent. You're not going to go anywhere but this building. I almost question the need for a sign on the structure at that point, because maybe it's already been identified out at Vestal. And again, I think the existing sign is more successful than the proposed here as well. Those are my comments.
Okay. Kevin?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Yeah, me as well. I think old comments go well with this one.
I mean, I think you know what the building is once you arrive there, right? I mean, does it even require a sign?
Okay. Ben, what's happening here besides the new design?
That's it.
I'm sorry.
Yep. No,
Ju-
just replacing the existing sign with a new one.
Okay. All right. I feel like the comments we've been making are probably consistent. Anything to add, Mark or Kevin?
Just a question. Are the existing signs national weather? Like, we don't have a close-up of any of those, I don't think, right? What are they?
Well, that one's just
What's-
a mock-up of our proposed. The existing ones are white painted, white
It's
background.
all right. Yeah. All right. It's confusing because they're shown in brown in your proposal.
Well, yeah,
White.
that, yeah. I know.
Okay. I thought it was something else. Yeah, my comments are consistent with what's been said previously.
All right.
Yeah. Well, thank you
Is that
guys.
the last one? Okay.
I know this is somewhat painful, but these are important historic properties, and we need to get these signs right. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I have to say, the more I look at them, and if we went through all the properties, and I suspected this might be the case, I really like the existing over what's being proposed.
Yeah.
It's just so clean and simple. So,
I would agree. And it's so nice to be agreeable with you, Mark.
it's weird. This is a weird year, Kevin. Everything's upside down. It's very strange.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
So we have Hillary on the line, right? Who's been patiently waiting through this process.
Hi.
Hi. Before we turn to you, Hillary, Kathy, that is the last item on the agenda as far as new applications, correct?
It is.
Okay. So
Do we need to make a motion?
let's do a motion. Yeah.
A motion to hold all of the NHA signs for revisions?
I second.
All right. And Kevin, are you in favor?
Aye.
Mark? And I am as well. All right. So thank you. And Ben, will welcome you back onto the board and turn the floor over to Hillary.
Hi,
Go ahead.
everyone. Nice to see you all. So I'm here representing the Nantucket Historical Commission. We are working with the land bank and a private donor who is we're together erecting a monument to Arthur Cooper, who was an African-American who lived on Nantucket in 1822 and was sheltered by the Quaker community and the Angola Street community from a magistrate who was trying to capture him and take him back to slavery in Virginia. The question I have for you, I do have some materials prepared. I can show you what is being proposed. But I wrote Kathy because I wasn't sure. The sign, it's a bronze plaque on a boulder, and it's going to be 18 feet wide by, 18 inches, inches wide by 20 inches tall. So I wasn't clear, and it's the only sign in the park. So I wasn't clear if this was something that was under the jurisdiction of the sign committee. So that would be my first question. And in either way, I'm happy to share my screen and show you the material.
Okay, thanks, Hillary. So there is a provision for rock signage in the guidelines, so I think that it would fall under our jurisdiction as far as issuing an approval. And do you have materials, Kathy, for us to see?
Hillary is going to screen share her
Okay.
information. I don't have an application yet. This is just a preliminary
Okay.
discussion.
Yeah, I can share that. I will say I looked for the provision for rock signage and I didn't find that.
So it's in the sign book. It's under sign types. So, there's wall signs, projecting signs. There is rock signage. From memory, I think that you have a 3 square foot area maximum. So you're at 18 by, what did you say it was?
20 inches.
20. So
Thank you.
that's called,
Yeah.
what is it? 18 by 20. That's pretty close to 3 square feet. Actually, that's under.
Pretty.
That's under.
Yeah, it's a
feet.
lot under.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think that complies with the sign guidelines as far as rock sign.
So
But
I'm sharing my screen. What are you seeing?
We're seeing
parts of
Go ahead, Mark.
things.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So we see it.
Gotcha.
We see the rock.
Let me do a new one. Here we go. Okay.
Why don't you start? Where is this park that we're talking about?
Yeah. So can you see a PDF with different information?
Yes.
Okay. So if you look in the lower left corner, this is the Garden by the Sea Land Bank Park. And where I've dropped the pin is where the rock is going to be. It backs up to Angola Street, which is where Arthur Cooper lived. And there's a little bit of a berm here. So the street is up above the park and the rock would be nestled into the berm at the base of a tree. The entrance to the park is here. And so the idea is that if somebody would walk into the park from North Mill Street, they would see this in the corner and have a reason to be drawn to walk across the park, read this, and appreciate the park from a different perspective as well. There's a tree with a bench right here in this corner. So other than that bench, there's really nothing to kind of visually draw you into the park. So in addition to the educational function, I think it also really enhances the visitor experience of the park from a landscape design perspective. This is the actual rock. This rock was found right here. And I think it's pretty cool that we're using a rock local to the site that if the glacier had just dropped it a stone's throw away, it would have been here.
Okay.
This is the type of plaque. We're doing something a little different. The idea is I didn't really like this leathery look. I think it looks very commercial and strange. So it's actually just going to be a plain finish. And we're having the fabricator do a hand patina. So it's not going to look as commercial. It'll look a little more natural and historic, but the size is going to be the size of the font is going to be the same. It's about 1/4 inch letters. And it'll be inset into the rock. And this is what it will say here.
Okay. Let me open up to the board for comments. Kevin.
Whose property is this?
The land bank.
Oh, okay. So then I guess it would also fall under public information sign, perhaps. I don't really have any concerns. We've approved similar metal signs like this I know on Pacific National Bank. I don't know if we've done any parks or
Yeah.
monuments, but I don't have any concerns, I guess, right off the bat.
Okay, Ben?
I have to recuse because I'm a member of the Nantucket Historical Commission. So.
Okay. Mark?
Yeah, I don't really have any concerns. It's interior on the property. It's going to be kind of tucked in, I think. And I do think there's precedent for exactly this elsewhere. The bird sanctuary, I think, is one that comes to mind that's on that property. And I'm sure we could come up with a few others. So, and it's sensitively done. So I really have no concerns whatsoever.
Okay, I agree. I was thinking of Sankaty Lighthouse, similar sort of markers. So I think that this should be applied for with the land bank as the applicant, and it seems to comply with the guidelines. So Hillary, I'm not sure you would need to return to another meeting, but just have the application signed off by the land bank and submit it. That's my advice. Does
Okay.
anybody on the board have other advice?
All right.
No? Okay.
That sounds
All right.
great. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Hillary. Thanks for
Thank
sitting
you,
through this
everyone.
meeting.
Sure thing. Good luck with the Historical Association.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody. Happy
Bye.
holidays.
Thanks, Hillary.
Thank you
Too.
too.
Bye.
All right, Kathy, is that the end of our agenda, or is there anything else on that?
That is it.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Merry Christmas and motion to adjourn.
All right. All right.
I agree with Mark.
All right. So that's
So
a
weird this year.
So weird.
That's a second by Kevin. In favor, Ben,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Kevin.
Aye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Aye.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Kathy.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you next year.
Bye, guys.
Bye.